Hey, everybody, it's the Pothead Professor here with all your cannabis knowledge needs. Today, we're going to be diving into the History of Cannabis, Volume 2. If you haven't seen the first part, definitely check that out, the part about China. But today, we are going to be focusing on India. India is where we really start seeing evidence of people using this cannabis plant for spiritual practices, enlightenment, and, kind of opening their minds. Cannabis use in India dates all the way back to some sacred Hindu texts, most notably the Vedas, which was written somewhere around 2000 to 1400 BC. According to the Vedas, cannabis was one of 5 sacred plants and was believed to have guardian angels living within its leaves. It was known as a source of happiness, joy-giving, and liberation, which was given to humans from the gods to help us attain delight and release us from anxiety. There's even a cannabis creation story in these texts where a drop of the nectar of the gods fell to earth, and the place where it fell, the first cannabis plant grew. Most notably among the Hindu pantheon is the god Shiva, who is actually known as the Lord of Bhang, and whose favorite food was the leaves of the cannabis plant. There's even a legend in these books where Shiva, after a heated argument with his family, storms off into a field and falls asleep beneath the shade of this leafy shrub. When he awakes, he eats the leaves of the plant and becomes completely rejuvenated. And this plant was the cannabis plant. So deep spiritual connections to the cannabis plant in the Hindu religion. And they refer to it in these texts as Bhang, which does actually specifically refer to the leaves more than the actual buds and flowers of the plant, which is what we're more concerned with today, although the Indians still found some uses for those other parts of the plants as well. In these more ancient times of India, Bhang was traditionally made into a drink. They would mix the Bhang with nuts and spices and sugar and milk and then boil it to create an infused beverage. There's even records of ancient Indian soldiers who would drink Bhang before a battle to help bolster their courage and their kind of ferocity on the battlefield. This practice was especially common among the Nihang Sikhs, who were an elite force of Sikh warriors who would use the Bhang for bolstering their bravery, their courage, their ruthlessness in battle, as well as for meditation and for, celebrating holy ceremonies. The Indian people would also smoke the buds and flowers of the plant, much like we do today. This version of the plant they would refer to as ganja for the buds. They would also make charas, which is a concentrated oil from all the resins in the cannabis plant, similar to hash. So they would make this very concentrated, very strong oil and smoke that. And they would smoke the ganja and charas out of straight earthenware pipes known as chillums. And this was actually an extremely social, community-driven activity where groups of 5 to 6, generally men, because it is ancient times, would sit around passing the pipe around a circle. On top of all of this, they also noted the medicinal benefits of the cannabis plant. It was known as a sacred grass with the power to vanquish sickness, despair, and calamity. And in the ancient Indian medical system of Ayurveda, it was used to treat conditions of the digestive and respiratory tracts. So once again, ancient medicine being used for all of the same things we're still prescribing cannabis for today. And while the Chinese and many other Asian countries were using the hemp for textiles, ropes, sails, it was actually Indian technicians that first developed hempcrete, where they mixed the hemp fibers with clay or limestone to create a really resilient plaster. And it's believed that the hempen fibers insecticidal properties, along with its ability to help the concrete better regulate humidity, is what has helped preserve the Ellora Caves, which is an extensive cave system in India full of ancient carvings and beautiful artwork that has lasted for over 1,500 years. And that longevity, some hypothesize, is due to the hempcrete that the Indians developed. So the Indians were on a roll. They've got this deep-seated spiritual connection to the plant. They're using it to promote community engagement. They were using it for medicinal purposes, using it for technological innovations. And then the British came. This is not a video about the British occupation of India, so I'm going to skip right on along to the late 1800s, where the occupying British put together a commission to look into the dangers of so many Indian people using bhang and other cannabis products. This commission sent representatives all over India and conducted thousands of interviews with Indians from every walk of life, from farmers to hospital psychiatrists, to try to understand the effect that their cannabis use was having on the population of India. After years of research, they released the Indian Hemp Drugs Commission report, which produced 6 volumes of data. And they found that suppressing the use of bhang in any way would be totally unjustifiable. They noted its use since ancient times, the religious connections and sanctions among the Hindu people, and found it to be pretty much harmless in moderation. And the same study found that alcohol was far more harmful to the Indian people than cannabis was. So the British ended up, as opposed to committing to a full ban, simply putting a tax on the drug to try to deter people from using it. But the use was still legal and very widespread. This didn't really change until 1961, where another rather nosy empire stepped in. In 1961, India sent delegates to the International Convention on Narcotic Drugs, a huge international convention where many, many countries came and discussed sort of an overarching drug policy. And at this convention, the United States pushed for a full prohibitionist approach to drug use. The Indian delegates actually pushed back on this due to the entrenched religious importance and significance that cannabis has in the Hindu society. However, the Indian government did eventually put some laws in the books against cannabis. In 1985, they made ganja and charas illegal. Now, notably, this law did exempt bhang. So while the buds and resins produced from the plant were illegal to consume, you could still use the leaves and other parts of the plant, which were most commonly used in the religious ceremonies for the Hindu people. Now, just like pretty much every drug prohibition law in the history of the world, it did nothing to actually stop people from using the drug. In fact, today, there are even government-sanctioned bhang stalls in India where you can legally buy bhang. And modern-day Indians still use the cannabis plant to relax after the end of a long day, for medicinal purposes, to fight fatigue and pain, and of course for religious ceremonies like Shivrati and Holi. There are also Indian ascetics called sadhus who are sort of religious hermits, segregating themselves from society and abstaining from all forms of indulgence. But they do use cannabis in their pursuit of spiritual freedom, using it to help them transcend ordinary reality and reach enlightenment. So from extremely spiritual roots to still some using it for extremely spiritual reasons today, India has a quite deep and close connection with the cannabis plant. And while many people tried to oppress them into making it illegal, it is still very widespread and revered in India today. This was a really fun episode to research, seeing all the different ways that cannabis has touched the culture of India and Hinduism specifically. Certainly, if you think I missed out on any huge topic, let me know in the comments. I always want to learn more about this plant and about the societies that have used it. Coming up in the next history of cannabis episode, we're going to be taking a look at Thailand. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Until next time, take it easy, everybody.